into Pace University, which is a school of engineering. And I just think the cards weren't for me to get educated, because I started going to school. A month later, they went on strike. So after that, I had to get a job, and then soon after my son came, and then the story. So then after living in New York, I didn't like school. I never tried school. Actually, I did do a year of Catholic school in New York, but the rest of the schooling was either Muhammad University or college. So I didn't do the high school, and my girlfriends did, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the school system. I didn't like the concrete jungle.
Right.
So with my son, I came to California. I love California. I love that I could see black people washing their cars in beautiful lawns and beautiful houses, because we didn't see that in New York.
Right.
I didn't have anything to show my kids to strive for other than what the other kids had.
Right.
And I didn't want that for them. So I came to California, and at some point I started to go back to school again, and I got pregnant with her. And I had a really bad pregnancy. I was on disability for 4 months. So anyway, I didn't go back to school. It didn't stop me from self-educating, because anything that I could read, that I could, with her, she didn't have an option. My other kids, I raised my husband's 3 kids, and my 2 kids. And my husband was a chemical engineer. So when my other kids graduated out of high school, we couldn't get them toilet paper to go to school. I mean, no grants, no nothing, because of my husband. He was up.
Yeah.
So one went to trade school. The boys decided to do my son decided to get married, and the other one, he went to school for, for something else. But they're all now working and doing fine. This is the only one that went to college. This one completed, and she had no choice. It was like, this one we were going to get educated one way or the other. So 5 years ago, she completed it. She's now working on her master's, but that's
Wow.
what she's doing.
I always say, great parenting.
My husband and I, idea for her from when she was little was to be president, because she was around during the O.J. Simpson trial, and this child was in there. She was there. We just knew she was going to be the lawyer. I mean, her vocabulary and the way she talked, and she would say, I remember one time she told me, she does not have the right to speak to me that way. At 4 years old, referring to me. With that, we knew that she was going to be the one. So I too, like Pam, promised myself I will go back to school. I will go back to school, but it's the barriers for going back are almost as bad as the barriers, that I had back then. Exactly.
You can homestay.
So now it's like, okay, I was talking this year, and I was like, okay, this year I'm going to go. So I went in, actually did the research, and the one program I want is the one program that is closed for the next couple of years at the school that I want. So I decided the other day, it's like, you know what, we're going to get something else. And at least I'll be taking something until when that opens up again, and then I can maybe go in. But I've always been an activist. I mean, from when we first came to the United States from Panama, I was a New York City auxiliary police officer at the age of 14, patrolling Brooklyn, acting like I, running.
Yeah.
So from there, I mean, my family has always been the type to volunteer.
Yeah.
I came to California, and of course, I was a union rep. I did presentations at the Union on Wilshire,
UCLA?
commercial workers.
Okay.
And I did presentations through the city attorney, because I was a volunteer mediator for 11 years. So I did a lot of things that, by all means, I would feel so, I wouldn't feel as above when I would sit in the room, because I would be in a room with lawyers and mediators and so on, and I'm talking and training you to be a mediator, and you have 7 years of school that I don't have. But it was really interesting, because I got to learn a lot, and I got to be exposed, and I got to meet a lot of the politicians, and I saw how it was a pimping system. Like I said, I'm bilingual, so I did a lot of translating for the city attorney that have money to pay translators. And when I realized that it wasn't really going out to the community. I was doing facilitations in the community, And people in the community would see me, and they would see me at the market and say, hey, weren't you supposed to do something? And I'm like, no, I was a facilitator. So when I started seeing a lot of that happening, where it's like people are looking at me and holding me accountable when I'm just the pencil that writes.
Yeah.
You give me the instructions, I write it, and they do it, So I stopped volunteering that way. So I worked the election, and I met Ted, and I used to be a member of Park Mesa before, and then it was a small little entity. And then all of these other areas started attaching and coming on and ruling what was going on in my area, even though they were far from our area. So I had enough of that. So now, when I met Ted, I decided it's a wonderful group. I love to watch the way they jive. I love the thinking. I mean, everything really leads me to believe that my community, my immediate community, has a chance. Because they always group in South Central and all of this, but this is our area, and our area is doing so much more for our community than a whole lot of areas. And why not? Why not join to make that voice louder? Maybe we can expand and get other communities to be able to change what's going on, not just in education, but in human rights, which is,
That's right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you did not have the right to speak to you.
That's it.
You're on.
Hello, my name is Kalila Johnson. I'm 23. Like you said, I'm working on my master's in counseling. Originally, I went to undergrad at UC Merced, which is like a new University of California. It opened, I think, in 2005. So with it being new, I had a lot of leeway to start things, to be a trailblazer as opposed to a follower. And with that, I was the president of our Black Student Union, which gave me the opportunity to not just work for my immediate community and the progression of Black people on our campus, but also give a voice to the Black students across California at the state level. So we had a lot. There was an organization I was a part of, which is the African Black Coalition, which is comprised of all of the Black student unions for each UC campus, and there's about 9 of them. And with that, we serve as a voice for the Black students, because majority of the UC campuses, which is supposed to be the top tier public education in our state, have like 2% Black people, when what is the population of Black people in California, which it should be representative of, and it wasn't. So we met with the president of the UC system at the time, I think it's still Mark Rudolph, and we told him, we gave him a list of demands, like, this is what we need for the progression of Black students. And they had us meet with financial directors and all of this to try to persuade us, but it's like, no, my tuition doubled within the 4 years that I went here, so you can't tell me there's no money. And the reason why I'm very dedicated to education is because I feel like they say knowledge is power, and I'm committed to the progression and the empowerment of my people. Not as being Black, being Hispanic, being low income, anyone that identifies as being historically disenfranchised in this country. So with that, I know the school to prison pipeline, which is something that I'm very passionate about, it bothers me. It really bothers me. Like, I was always a high-performing student. From first grade, I think I had the second highest test score in all of the state. So it's not, no one ever told me I can't do something. And the thing is, a lot of the students that I encounter on a daily basis believe, like, they've internalized that you can't do something. It's mainly just from the color of their skin. So while the education system is more so a monetary thing as opposed to like your skin color, I think it's especially detrimental to Black students, because we don't have any real examples of what you are capable of. Like in other countries, like for example, when working with Mexicans that come from Mexico, they're completely different, because doctors look like them, lawyers look like them, presidents look like them, everyone looks like them. And in this country, many people don't. It's like Black people are the problem. And there's never really been a talk of solutions. And I'm more of a solution-based person. I don't have time to worry about, oh, this problem. Like, for 400 years, these people been here, and it's been a problem. So it's not something that I like to waste my time on. And originally, I did want to go into law, but I can't commit my time to that. I know that I have a lot of great skills, and I'm not going to allocate it to a system that is to bring my people down, honestly. And it's like majority of the laws put into place, and all that is geared towards keeping a certain group down. And I'm not just Black people, but people that don't have the power and don't have the money to speak up. So with that, I like to use my talents for things that I think are better. And that's what I was going to say. Also, I hear a lot of people talk about the system, like, oh, the system is not working, but the system was never created to work for people like us.
Thank you.
So with that, I don't waste time talking about how the system doesn't work. Like, I'm more so, like you said, a revolutionary, because the system was never created for us to be successful. So why continue to work within the system that's not meant for your progression? So with that, I'm the current youth and education representative for Park Mesa Heights, and I love that community council mainly because they do exactly what I've been wanting to do my whole life, which is speak up to the people that say they're representing us and they don't. Like, I have my degree in political science, and learning the science behind our political system lets you know that it was meant to be inefficient. It's not meant to work. So it's like, why continue to try to place that? Like, I like to work within the system just to say that I am. You can't tell me like, oh, well, did you put in this permit? Did you write a complaint? Like, yeah, I would do that, but I'm still actively working to bring that down and starting anyway.
That's right. That's Park Mesa Heights right there. Attitude.
I was on the wrong TV neighborhood council, I'll tell you that. It's going to be my opportunity today. For running up the
Not to the camera.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Dixon. I'm an attorney and clinical director of the Substance Abuse Clinic. I grew up in the neighborhood. I'm not from Park Mesa, but I'm from South Central. That's what we used to call it, South Central Los Angeles. And I can't get used to South L.A. because it's not really South L.A. It's in the center of L.A. and it's South. So it's South Central Los Angeles.
Thank you.
I grew up over by 54th and McKinley, which is considered on the east side. And on my way to school, going to 49th Street Elementary School, I found 2 dead bodies that were OD'd on heroin on different days when I was little. But like you, my father actually brought us to Vietnam during the war. And I was actually in Saigon when they were dropping, during the Tet Offensive.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the interesting thing was when I came back to South Central Los Angeles, I actually felt more fearful, and because the violence was directed at me. I mean, I found 2 dead people that looked like me in my neighborhood, you know, and bodies were mutilated and stuff. So, and all my cousins, different people were either on heroin, and then when the crack revolution came, they were on crack in 1979 when that first started. I didn't even know what it was, but I knew that it was devastating to our community, and I could see later on exactly what the effect was going to be. So later on, I became a lawyer, and I became a lawyer because I wanted to help people and work for people, but like she said, it's not meant for us.
Right.
It's not meant for us as lawyers. It's not meant for us as citizens.
Exactly.
And so I started a nonprofit organization after 20 years. And that organization was on 48th and Crenshaw. And it was a substance abuse clinic. I raised that organization from a budget of $50,000 to $1.5 million. I had an office on Crenshaw, and I was appointed as the Alcohol and Drug Commissioner by Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas. I rose all this way up from not even having been to a 12-step meeting, but what I did know was that there was a problem in our community, and I saw that this problem blossomed when the drugs came into the community. The drugs became something that created revenue for gangs. Then, you know, it is true that they dumped off weapons and then drugs in our community, and they knew what that dangerous cocktail was going to do.
That's right.
And that's another part of a civil rights violation. You know, colonizing our community with things like that cause us to, you know, automatically fail. And they're constantly, you know, the cradle to prison pipeline is real. They literally do figure out how many prison beds they need based on the scores of children in the 3rd grade in our community. And I was appalled because before I created this nonprofit, I worked for another nonprofit as executive director on Title I tutoring program. And we tested kids consistently in Inglewood and in the area of the Crenshaw area. Every kid was testing consistently in the 8th grade at 2nd and 3rd grade level, and math and English arts. So that means the system was doing exactly what it was supposed to do.
Right.
Like she said, it wasn't meant for us. It was, if something fails that frequently, then that means that was by design, not by choice.
Exactly.
Another thing I recognized when I started sitting in on groups with my kids that were at risk, that were in gangs, they didn't have ADHD, they had PTSD.
That's right.
I recognized that because I had it when I came back from Vietnam.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So our kids are being misdiagnosed, and I remember when I was a little kid going to Fort Nicer School, there were so many kids that were considered, now this is not politically correct, we call them retarded. We would call them developmentally delayed. But our kids, instead of giving them the time that they needed, they were just tracked into this remedial program, and that was it. That was the beginning of that education disparity. Because there was a time when, if you recall, everybody had homes, families. I mean, when my mother graduated from Dorsey, and my father graduated from Jeff at Jefferson High School. It's named something else now. But they got married. They had my brother and I, and they had nuclear families. What stopped all that? Everybody had a house, a family, and a job. And there was a film that talked about it. What stopped all that was when they started COINTELPRO, when they started fighting against the gangs, which the gangs were originally to protect us from other gangs. But not the ones that invented gangs. White people invented gangs, and they came into our neighborhood, beating people up, and so there were these kind of block groups that were protecting people. But then once they took that away, they took jobs away, then they put the drugs and the guns in the neighborhood, and then that started this infighting that has happened to this day. And also what I consider a genocide, because for several generations now, we have this gene, this genetic predisposition to use drugs, because they were introduced, and there's a new science of epigenetics that says that your gene pool can change in this lifetime based on what your experience in your environment is, and you can pass it on to your children and your next generation. So anyway, to wrap it up, my substance abuse clinic was shut down to create a prison called Miraloma, because the new program is that they have taken money from education and from the AB 109 and from substance abuse. DHCS got together and did this along with the prison guards, Governor Brown. They've decided that while we were all worried about the money not going to CBOs in the community, they had another plan. So it's like you play hide and seek. They diverted us. You know, we have drug diversion. Well, they diverted us.
We get you over here while we're doing this.
They said, look at this, look at this. We were all upset because no money was going to CBOs. So we're over here looking at this hand, while this hand is quietly
Stabbing you in the back through the heart.
Exactly, repurposing a prison that's going to provide substance abuse treatment and education-based incarceration.
That's right.
Now, we already said that to me is a civil rights violation.
And for women 75 miles away from the city, and they think that video visits are good, right?
No, they're not. So the issue is that now we have money taken away from our vital education system once again, but that was always taken away because it was always tracked into the prison pipeline, but now we can exactly see what the plan is. We already said, based on Prop 36 and the Robert Downey case, that it was not a status of being a criminal to be a substance abuser, that we needed to work on rehabilitation, that we were going to save money through rehabilitation, and we were going to actually help to reintegrate these people into our society. And the reason why drug Medi-Cal money was even carved out in the first place, most people don't realize this, but in the 1970s, there were a lot of angry middle-class white parents that were pissed off about their kids coming back from war addicted to heroin and morphine. And they demanded reparation from the government. And so that's why drug Medi-Cal is a carve-out. It cannot be used for anything but drug substance abuse. That's all it can be used for, drug treatment. It's a part of Medi-Cal, but the reason they call it drug Medi-Cal is because it's a specific carve-out, and it can't be used to treat any other thing except for substance abuse.
It's categorical then.
Exactly, and the reason why is because it really is low-key, it's a reparation. It's an admission of guilt on the part of the government that they literally created the drug abuse program, the drug abuse system in our community, and that is why they need to alleviate it.
So that's why nobody knows about it.
And people do know about it, but they don't, not the general population. They haven't figured out and connected the dots of why are they giving this drug Medi-Cal money. That's why. The second part of it is now through AB 109, they misdirected the Plata decision. The Plata decision said that it was cruel and unusual punishment to overcrowd the prisons. And we had 200% capacity when Plata was first, made into a law. Basically, it went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Then there was a consent decree, which California has not complied with. And the reason why Governor Brown keeps asking to increase it is because he was waiting to get Miraloma online. Remember, he kept asking for amnesty because he was told by the court that you have to be in compliance, waiting to get this prison online. And we already said that it's still going to cost just as much, if not more money now, to do incarceration-based substance abuse treatment. Why? Because the doctors alone get $220,000 a year. And it's all staffed by doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, and psychologists, all high-paying individuals. So it's literally going to cost more to do education-based and substance abuse incarceration, to do that treatment in an incarceration setting. It would cost more than it would take to do that with the community-based organizations. It's also, prisons are always big business, and they make money for this Miraloma community. They're still directing money that was supposed to go to L.A. County, because L.A. County has 40% of the prisoners in the state of California.
40%, right?
Yes, they're coming right out of L.A. County. So that money now is redirected once again out of L.A. County, because Miraloma is not in L.A. County. It's not in L.A. County. But it was $200 million that was going toward substance abuse treatment statewide. $99 million went to L.A. County in the fiscal year 2012-2013. But hardly any of that. In this particular prison budget and everything, it says that there's a budget every year for the CBOs, and then it's zero starting with July 1st, 2013 and 2014.
So that's why they got rid of it.
And that's how they did it. There's 200 substance abuse clinics that are out right now. And there's and then also at the same time, Kaiser has put in, I don't know if you guys have realized it, but Kaiser has put in a number of locations in our community. Now, they were always serving our community, but for some reason, all of a sudden, now it's a big thing to make contracts to actually put locations in our community. And those are, and so the reason they're doing that is because they want to access this money.
That's right.
The $99 million that go to L.A. County for substance abuse treatment.
That's right. So their corporate friends get forked again.
Yeah.
So in this room, we've got a plethora of brilliance. We've got teachers, we've got lawyers, we've got political science kids, we've got community activists, we have got a team of talent. And what I've learned over the years as I've moved around the world doing my activism is that we are the ones who are going to create the movement. It takes a movement, really, it really does. And this is the movement. So I'm encouraging you all, now we're going to really go into the heavy training. Everyone's been able to say what they need to get off their chest, give your story. That's all important for me. I don't care how long that takes. It's really important that I know the players in the room. So when you begin to interact with each other, you know where the strengths are going to come from for how we're going to build. I would really encourage you next Saturday to bring one more person with you. In this movement, right now we need numbers. It's about numbers in the movement. Because what I'm going to explain to you in the next 2 Saturdays is that there have been certain communities who've been taught this now very, very well, that the numbers are important. And it doesn't matter if you learn it or you don't learn it. They'll come in that room and they'll nod their head like they're supportive of what's going down. They don't understand it, but the numbers are beginning to be played out as being very, very important. So thank you all for telling your story. I'm going to start with, as I said, I like using the NCS more.
Let me say one thing that I forgot to tell you. When I came and repeated the 12th grade, I never studied one day of my life, and I aced straight A's. Because everything they taught me was taught in the 11th grade in Louisiana. And when you learn something in the South, you learned it. It did not leave you. It was there. But I need to tell you this. Only 5% of the people in the world think. 10% think they think. 85 would rather die than think. And the 10% is the most dangerous. That's the backbiters, the liars, the cheaters. They will say anything against you, about you. Okay? You run from them.
So let's go. Let's go into the business of the work. You all should have a folder in front of you, and in that folder will be the agenda for today. It will be your evaluation I'd like you to complete at the end of the day. I'm also asking that George, when you finish completing your written evaluation, that you give a verbal evaluation to both Pam and to George. The reason why I'm letting you know that is when you look at the movements that have really grown in the last 4 or 5 years, they've all used social media. When you look at Occupy, the Occupy campaign, the 99% campaign, they use the basis of media to get their message to the street. And black people, we just ain't caught on quick enough to that, in that movement. If you saw what went down in Syria, if you saw what went down in Egypt, you were sitting here in America, and for the first time you were getting stories from elsewhere in the world, because the people were telling the story, not the media, not the LA Times, not USA Today, but Facebook and YouTube was telling those stories. And so I need you to give Pam and George 30 seconds of what you got out today and why, because when other people see that, it's not me giving the message, it's what you're giving to the community. So we really have to get into the business of telling our stories. So I'm going to start by showing now, I'm not so keen on the organisation who worked to partner to put this idea together, but I am keen to show you what was said, because some of the players in the room have been a part of telling this story about what goes on in LCFF, and I need you to hear what that story looks like now, and it's pretty real, okay? So we're going to open with this, and then I'm going to start with the real training. I'm glad to say the technology is now working.
Power buttons are one all the way over to the one side, to your left.
So that they learn about what it is that parents are concerned about. So it was a great networking event for parents, so that they can get their voice out, and they had a platform to speak out.
So this is parents talking.
Do you have your speakers up on your computer? Volume is on over in the other end. You don't have your speakers up. You don't have your headphones up on your computer.
Oh, what's that? Okay.
So that they learn about what learn about. So it was a great networking event for parents, so that they can get their voice out, and they have a platform to speak out.
I feel like I just know that parents are a little bit, we need further training. So I could really make a difference there.
¿Muchos padres del LCFF?
La mayoría no. La mayoría no están teniendo la
I'm sorry, people. We are in some real technological challenges.
You need to turn up your speakers.
I think it is. It's on full.
But it's not on here, it's not translating to these speakers.
And it was before.
Plug in.
Oh, no, we.
I would like the lady to come into the schools to make sure it triggers down into the schools and lines you up for everything. The knowledge of the schools for our children would be a lifetime given for us to give back to our children.
A lot of it should go towards us.
She's a little weird. Supposed to be it.
Well, yeah, but when you hit the volume again, it looks like it's a little. Okay, why did that not hit the volume? Okay, see,
You're right, mute.
No, it wouldn't be coming through hers if it was on mute.
Coming out. I'm sorry about this.
We had it going.
So Yolande, why don't you get one back? Because it wasn't my event. It wasn't my event.
They said they had it down to 60.
Okay, so I don't know why that's now not working. This is just, it's really bugging me, this technology today. But I've got to keep moving forward. Let me see if I can get
Well, we're hardwired, that's hard to explain. We're hardwired, so it's hard to explain, and it was working.
It was working. All this normally works fine. So.
In fact, it should have turned off your speakers when those are plugged in. It should have turned off the speakers on the
Sound
computer.
to make sure it's on. Okay, let's try it now.
I see that was turned all the way off.
There we go. Okay,
Yeah,
Apple likes to talk back at you, so you have to talk. With computers, what I've learned is to be patient and to talk to them. And when you talk to them, they work.
I scream at them.
No, you can't scream at your computer, they're like children.
It's like cars. If you don't let them know who's boss, they don't listen. You know what? If I don't have my tools in my car, it will break down. If I have them, it knows I got them, and it doesn't. It's a fact. Carry plugs and everything.
All right, I'm going to pass
I carry
the
my
first
battery.
handout
That's the guy moving.
that I need to start reading through. And I've given all of you a highlighter. Please highlight the things in the handout that you think are important to you. As we go through each of the presentations, I'm going to be giving you documentation that relates to LCFF. But as I told you, this is one of the things that I've learned from this game is that this game is built on the knowledge of the information that you're given. And if you don't get the information and you don't know the information, then you won't be able to really have conversations with people about how you're meant to make an impact. To be able to make that impact successfully, you've got to be able to explain to people what it's saying and what it's not saying. Yeah? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read that while I make sure, thank you, while I make sure my system is working. And as Jules says, the reason why I like Wested's stuff is because they've broken down the legislation and the law. I'm actually going to email you the legislation. It's 143 pages, and Carly and I decided we couldn't print it off. But I'll be using the information today as part of my teaching with you.
And the LAO report, too.
And I have the LAO report.
The LAO report is really important to understand the mess.
Yeah.
And not have to go through 140 some odd pages.
So if you read what it's saying and highlight what you think is important, and then we're going to look at the video, and then we're going to talk about what I think you should be looking at that's important that they don't actually tell you in the documentation. I know, it's very hot in here, I'm sorry. I thought there was air conditioning, Carly. It's not working.
You know what, they may have turned it off
Because
in
it's
the
a
main
Saturday.
room. Right, so unfortunately, we
No windows.
But it's working in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It is?
You
It's
know,
working in the bathroom?
Well, they got that fin on it, it's nice and cool in the ladies' room.
yeah.
No window can be open.
No,
No, there's no,
Well, let's have our meeting in the head.
We didn't think it would be off. We've already inquired about it. Hopefully we'll get a text message. Next Saturday we'll have it under control, so just bear with us. But we tried to adjust the thermostats and that don't seem to work either. So the main switch must be somewhere else.
They can hand it. Did they pass out a handout?
You should have
I
got it.
did. Did you get one?
No.
It's called What is the Local Control Funding Formula? I need you to read through that handout and then highlight what you think is important.
That was an A and B.
How is it?
That means see your way out of this.
He had told me he didn't have one.
Did you get a folder, Georgie?
Yep.
And it's very important if we
Welcome to the California State Board of
we know
There we go.
The video and audio download is available on the LCFF.
Yeah, thank you. If we know high school students, I think we need to be educating our children from 9th grade in what we're learning. That's part of the issues. If we've got them in our communities, we should be bringing them to the training so they can understand exactly what is going on around the system that supposedly is meant to support them. Yeah?
Okay.
Channel are designed to help the education community learn about how the local control funding formula works to support local implementation activities. The focus of this brief segment is to explain what the local control funding formula is. In California, the amount of state funding that to support local education depends on the overall size of the state budget.
Can you all hear that now?
The formula is determined to reflect an education share of California's revenue as Population 98, which is a general world fund that results in approximately 40% of state revenue flowing towards state working education. The passage of Proposition 30 in 2012 increased state revenue, which helped increase funding for K-12 education. Another way to think about this is that Proposition 98 determines the size of the K-12 education funding pie. Part of the passage of the local funding formula, the state divided the pie into slices for local educational agencies, that includes districts, charter schools, and county offices of education, into two categories, revenue limits and categorical programs. In effect, the state told local educational agencies through the former funding formula how big their slice was and what the filling would be. Now, with the local control funding formula, the state slices the pie based on a relatively simple calculation, which funds local educational agencies the same amount per student with a handful of adjustments for grade levels and demographic characteristics, such as low-income students, English learners, and foster youth. Also, under the local control funding formula, the state has largely handed over responsibility for determining the filling of each pie to local educational agencies. The expectation is that funding flexibility improves the ability of local educational agencies to meet their student needs compared to the former system, where the state tended to direct funding to specific activities. A few important facts about LCFF to end. First, LCFF is California's new formula for determining the level of state funding provided to local educational agencies to provide for their state-supported general and supplemental programs. Second, LCFF is designed to provide local educational agencies with flexibility to direct resources to meet student needs, increase funding transparency, and aid in a simple explanation of how funding is provided and used locally. It supports equity through a student-focused formula and focuses attention on performance through requiring that plans are in place to describe how resources are used prior to of local education agency budgets. Third, implementation of LCFF will take time. At present, the Department of Finance estimates that this process will take 8 years. But if the economy grows faster, this timeline may be shorter. However, implementation of LCFF begins with the 2013-14 school year. Local educational agencies are now receiving funding based on a calculation for transition to LCFF. This means that local educational agencies have some increased funds in 2013-14 and are expected to begin developing the systems and structures to take advantage of the flexibility and meet accountability requirements. The local control funding formula is a major change to how California has supported local educational agencies. Through the local control funding formula, the state is providing new decision-making power to local educational agencies to act based on the needs they see for students. In addition, this shifts California from treating funding as an input to supporting students to a resource that is linked to performance expectations. We thank you for viewing this edition of the LCFF Channel's Implementation Insight. More information can be found at lcff.westeb.org or www.cbe.ca.gov. Thanks for viewing.
Okay. So tell me what you highlighted and tell me what the video told you that wasn't on here. that's critical to what's going on with LCFF. And if I have to, I'll play the video again so you don't listen. What about Prop 98? Right, so that's one key element. One of the key elements, and for those of you who weren't in the public school system, you might not, I need to probably just set a little bit of the scene for you. You know, you had No Child Left Behind, that's been a law that was supposed to, by 2014, have all children as proficient in English language, arts and mathematics. The baseline of any educated child is that you need those two core subjects. No Child Left Behind was the law that is still in place today. In California, we have created a local control funding formula, so the rest of the country is still operating under No Child Left Behind. So let me say something to you. No Child Left Behind is still operating in California. Let's not forget that the original Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESA as it's known, still operates. And school districts like LAUSD still get money for No Child Left Behind. What they are currently doing is they're channeling all of our focus into the local control funding formula, but they still have billions of dollars and millions of dollars for other programs. So that's something key that isn't highlighted on this sheet that you need to make a note of. The first point. And the second point is, as I keep telling parents, the district keeps telling the community that there is no money right now. What did they just say? Let me just take you back to this clip. Let me just take you back one slide. Because sometimes people miss things if you don't hear, you know, they tell you you're supposed to hear things 3 times to really remember, okay?
Welcome to the California State Board of Education.
I want to show you something that a lot of people tend to forget. Right, that's the first piece. See this slide here?
The state slices the pie.
See this slice here? See
Yeah,
how they slice it? Okay? And what they're not really telling you is who recreated the reslicing. And some of you have spoken about it today. The people who are changing the way we think about education in America who's reslicing this pie.
Billionaires.
Community. It's not the people, it's the billionaires. They're reslicing this pie. They're getting rid of organisations like Rollers, who's delivering to its people and reslicing the pie and giving it to their friends. Because you see, what you need to understand is this pot of money is still as big as it's always been.
That's right.
It's just where they're reslicing the pie, where they're refocusing the energy, where they think the priority should be, good afternoon, where they think the priority should now be. So it's important to understand every time you're looking at this that there is money in the community to educate our children and to pay our teachers well, but they're reslicing the pie. Okay? Yes, sir. Great.
And also in the reslicing, if you look at all the portions are not equal.
Right. And we're gonna really start to break down where those portions are. Walter?
Right. What to say that? First they need to understand that LAUSD, John Davis, the board approved for him to take all of our money and put it into the general fund budget. So he's not lying to you when he says there's no funding. Because he have taken the funding and put it up under his general fund budget, and he have accounts in offshore accounts. And in his name and in his wife's name. Okay. But Prop 98, you need to maybe explain to them about the lawsuit.
Yeah.
How Prop 98 came into existence.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you part of that history in a minute, so I will do that. The other piece I want you to really hear. Yeah, go on, Sharon.
Real quick, from what Walter said, are you saying that the schools don't get the categorical funds anymore? So
That's right.
The school site council is not...
Right, I'm coming to all of that. I don't want us to rush, because we've got to get this Literally today, we got to get this like the A to Z, like you're learning the alphabet.
How the game
We've got to
works.
stay with A, and I'm not even going to take us to B until we really understand A. So let's just look at this slide.
Ladies and gentlemen, anybody need blank paper?
Yes.
Real quick,
Paper,
distress paper,
and there's paper
anybody else?
everywhere. Everyone has highlighters. Does that new guest have a folder? Good afternoon, please sign in. We'll give you a folder.
Yeah,
Please
what?
tell us your name and introduce yourself to the group.
No one's.
Please introduce yourself.
LA. I'm with the Park Mesa Neighborhood Council, representing Hyatt Park.
Lovely, welcome. So let me just take you through this slide.
One thing, yo.
Yeah.
And that is, what you have to understand is, did you see that last slide? So they had some cut out from the center, then they cut some other in diagonals. When they tell you they got rid of categorical, no. What they did is they created another, way more twisted categorical system, in which, according to Cheslog, Torlison's #1 advisor, is the equivalent of criminal justice realignment, in which there is now absolutely no accountability because the fox is watching the hen house.
Right.
And in fact, CDE has no more job in education. 80% of CDE's funding is from the feds only to monitor NCLB and RTTT, and has been purposely defunded by the state so they can pull off this game. And what she's going to teach you is the new game
Right.
versus the old game,
Right.
what they tell you and what it really is.
So let me just set, Mary.
Okay, now, what was you said about Mr. May's English and his wife? They're doing what?
It's public record.
So I'm gonna come to his history a little bit, but I need to set the scene so you really understand. There's been a group. So in 2005, a group of billionaires with Bill Gates, the Walmart Foundation, the Hewlett-Packard Foundation,
Started with 100 of them.
with 100 billionaires, they came together.
And now Zuckerman.
Right. They said, we got to fix public education. We got to fix it. We're losing market share. We've got China and India getting ahead of the game. We're not producing the kind of people in this country that we need. So we need to fix it. And the one thing that they were focused on fixing, and I've got to be honest with my teachers in the room, was to wipe out the teacher union. That was #1 on their agenda. Right? And you already know that, okay? That's #1. Anything that was a people-led movement, where the people had say, and the people wanted to do things after numerals. This is another parent, welcome, please sign in, and then Carly will service you while I'm training.
Okay,
Yeah? Ross, quickly introduce yourself to the group before I continue.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a parent rep at Los Angeles High School. I put in my volunteer hours, 25, 30 hours a week. And this is my son, Ryan.
Wow.
And he's an all-around athlete, and he holds a 3-point something, and we just got him to play.
You know. He knows where he's going.
Paul Robeson. And I know a couple of you, especially that gentleman there. I sat next to you. Do you remember me? How could you ever forget me?
I don't know.
We were sitting there.
I have dementia. I'm a walking fool.
Next to you at the board, you would just tell me how crap this was. And I said, ooh, who's this guy?
And it is, isn't it?
Come and take a seat, both of you. Stop Ryan. Let's give a round of applause to our young girl now who's 3.8. And he's only, what grade are you?
Sophomore, 10th grade.
Right, so you know by the time he's 12th grade, he will be
What school you in?
something.
High school.
Okay, had to know.
LA High, right? And let me tell you.
And what sport?
He's an activist.
Basketball, football, and track.
Oh, okay, 3? Wow, dude. I did too. You beat me. Football and track for me. I was no good at basketball or baseball. Mostly center. I was all league both ways. Got scholarship offers everywhere.
All right, Judy, let's continue. So let me
Good talking to you, Dad.
So let me just set the scene. So
Classic
part of
There's a chair against the wall, different shoes.
There's chairs there, Ryan. Please join us at the table. You're going to learn. I just said, didn't I just say we need the high school journey walked in the room? So thank you. You're always answering my friends.
You're breaking the ice, dude.
You are so good when it comes to me.
Well, she's not far away from it.
Right.
She knew fascism, that was a big one.
So when these billionaires got together and they realized the recession was going to hit them and there was going to be a drop in their company's growth, where the billions really go in the world is into education, into public education. That's where the real money is. But the people who run public education was not the billionaires in 2005, okay? It was the system that was running it. There was control by the unions across the country. There was socialism in England that was also linking with unions here, and the people were having a big say on what was happening. They said that can't continue. That can't continue. So by the time the recession hit in 2008, they now had the ability to start pointing fingers elsewhere and putting blame elsewhere. So I have to say to my teachers in the room, I have to apologise because I know you have been beaten, jumped on, done everything to you. So I just want you to know, I went to all public school from K through 12, and I had brilliant teachers from K through 12. So there are brilliant teachers in the public system today, and Rod took me to an event at LA High, and I just watched this black woman who was a teacher being talked about in such high esteem. Did we not, Marion and Gwendolyn? We were like overwhelmed by that event on Wednesday. So there will be no teacher bashing in this room. We will talk about ineffective people, right? Because there are ineffective people in government, in law, in the doctor's profession. So hey, let's put it out there that not every teacher is a bad teacher. So I just want to make that really clear. And Jahenga really liked when I told my story when I came to school about an ineffective teacher who ended up being a brilliant teacher in the school my son was at. So everybody can turn around. So that's the scene. From 2008, they upped their ante. They had a series of, and we've got to really put this out there, and I'm going to be giving you this information, of CBOs, government entities, officials, that also was in that room and decided to become a part of this story. So you really have to know the animals you deal with in your town. Because some people are going to walk in this room and tell you they're about the people and they have nothing to do with the people. They might look like some of us, but that doesn't mean they're about the people. Okay? So in California right now, we have legislation that, guess what? Nobody is going to be held accountable.
Thank you.
Okay? Be crystal clear. When that last word you see there, LCFF implementation will take time, but begins now. The money is already in the school districts and has been there since last year. Okay? So how come they're telling parents and teachers at school sites, we don't have any money, we're broke? One principal, I won't name which school I was in, where he told us that he's been to 5 trainings, and first of all they told him he was going to have more control over his budget at his school site, and now they're telling him, oh no, we're going to give you this amount of control, and before you can tick any box or ask any questions, you have to get our permission to spend it. So it's the fox washing the hen house. Daisy is instrumental. Let me explain to you. This superintendent is instrumental in this movement. This is the fastest growing charter school district in the country. Fastest growing because we're the second largest.
Number of charter schools.
The largest number of charter schools growing every day. I'm coming to Jahenga and Marion. But also you need to understand it's not just about him wanting to get rid of the teachers union. They don't want public education to exist anymore in the way it exists in America. That's what you need to get your head around. There is not going to be something called a traditional public school once this is implemented. And I'm going to show you in all this documentation I'm going to give you how the strategy is working brilliantly for them. Brilliantly. It's not working right now, it's working brilliantly for them. So that's because, as I'm going to bring it back again, we the community and the people's movement isn't organised. We can't afford those of us who get it to be fighting with others who get it. We need to become organised in how we're going to embrace each other. So just listen Because West End is paid for by the state.
That's
So
right.
remember who's funding this slide I'm showing you. But I'm showing it to you because you need to understand that this is the tool they're putting out there for you to be educated. And if you can't read in between these lines, then you don't know what they're really telling you. Jahanga, Marion, and then water.
I also want to say that Yolanda's been our principal, and he actually also is a supporter of public education. And what principals are also being told is that they have less money, more flexibility, and more restriction. There's this purposeful, you're trying to confuse us, and that parent was also saying parents are confused.
Right.
There is a purposeful campaign to confuse the public.
Correct.
And so that's why we need more trainings like this.
That's right.
So we can get clear about it, and then we take this clear-headed message out to the community.
Okay.
So and we can't do it over 8 years. We gotta do it now.
That's right.
So that's another thing we need to keep in mind. It's a purposeful thing. How can you wrap your mind around this? You have less money, but there's more money. You have more flexibility, but more restrictions.
Yeah.
You know, it's purposely done to short circuit us.
Yes.
So we have to be really aware of not getting short circuited.
Wonderful. Marion.
Yeah, we all have to understand, he's cleaned up, isn't he?
Right.
He made it bring down.
Well, I understand that, but his mission is to chop up the district.
Correct.
That's his whole
That's his
mission.
brief.
That's his
Correct.
mission to be here.
That's
And
right.
then number two is, as far as the way that public education, the route of public education, is what is happening in New Orleans. New Orleans does not have a traditional public school anymore.
Right.
What they have is charters, and charters are privatized. They're public money used privately,
Yes, right.
and there's no one accountable.
Correct.
So they do whatever they want.
Correct.
Anything and everything.
Correct.
And they can segregate. They can do whatever they want.
Correct. This is where we're going in California.
And this is you have to connect the dots.
Right.
Chicago closed 50 schools.
58.
Right, schools. Detroit has closed schools.
That's right.
And Detroit has an emergency manager, which the people do not vote. They have no representation. Their right to vote have been denied.
Yes.
And what is it? Detroit is who? Largely what people? There you go.
Right. Water.
John Davis, though he is the representative, the spokesperson, the tool for Bill Gates, Eli Rose, who was the main spokesperson for the rest of the billionaires.
Right.
The first year when they did, they put 100 billionaires together. The second year, they came another second 100 billionaires came in on that. Now what you have to understand is that LAUSD, they went and localized, did local control on all of its districts. What does that mean? It means that we're getting rid of everything but a state and a federal mandate.
Right.
That means that we are able to do whatever we want to do, whenever we want to do it, to whoever we want to do it to. Now, the only stigma was LCFF and LCAP that's supposed to have complete, this candidate, some of you went to the meeting out at 9300 at the county building? Laco. Some of you went to that when it happened, okay? They didn't even tell the whole truth.
Right.
I signed early. They made sure that I didn't speak.
Yeah.
But they was aware that I was knowledgeable of what was going on. They didn't want my mouth to taint what they was going to be saying.
Okay, Kalila?
Yeah, so one thing that I like to do when reading legislation is figuring out the benefit for the person that's writing it or the people that's reading it. And since it is what we're doing there, it's like what people like to realize is that the purpose of our public education from day one was to create workers, not to create critical thinking entrepreneurs or anyone like that. It was to make workers, and now it's not working. We need smarter workers, so the billionaires are investing so we can have smarter workers.
Right.
And the thing is when making a plan for our children, we need to think about what do we need, not what billionaires need. They just need workers. We need people that can look at our interests and be able to critically think what will be necessary to be a solution. So with that, I think it's knowing their purpose is just to create better workers.
Right.
And when you think about that, it lets you really break down the purpose of all of this and be able to read through the lines.
Well said.
Yo, I didn't say one thing, and that was that the billionaires went to Washington and said, we deserve to have the same thing that teachers unions have. We're supposed to have the same resources coming to us. They said that we are supposed to get special legislation written for us just like them. So the state of California have written, and they put it up into charter.
Yes.
They have written special legislation for charter schools. They quadrupled the funding for charter schools for 2014-15 school year. They do not have the same guidelines. They are not subjected to what the guidelines of public education have.
Right.
They are exempt from it.
Right.
Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
They can do basically what they want to do.
Using public money.
Right.
Okay.
Wait a minute, the one last thing. The one last thing is that they made this a transitional year.
Yeah.
So whatever you put in place, it doesn't matter. It's not going to count. It's not going to be no sanction on no school district.
Right. So understand this. When you see that bullet point at the bottom, but begins now, we're already late in the game.
Thank you.
Okay? So when I'm saying we need to go to the community, there's like 20 of us in this room, there need to be 200,000 of us in this room. Because in LAUSD alone, a district with 635 schools, 4,500 teachers, and 1.1 million parents, of which 9% of those are African American or black. This is a joke. Right. So when I start to break down for you the budgets, you will see there's not even money allocated to our children's development.
Thank you.
Right? And the money is here already. Rosalind's in a school with black children. Sharon's got schools with black children. Mary teaches as a sub with black children. But there is not monies allocated to the development needs of these children. Right? Like Kalida's right. They don't want to give our children the tools so they can compete with the rest of the community. Right?
Yo.
Quick.
Really important for you guys to understand. West End was founded originally with 4 states and the feds, and guess who they're funded by now? 400 to 700 billionaires and wealthy corporations.
Right.
And Bakersfield. First of all, when they had it at Lego, they refused to accept Core California's written comments on LCFF. I went up to Bakersfield, busted these people, running against laws of 3 different organizations in the state. Suddenly the comment time got opened up from noon that day to wide open, still being run illegally. So why I'm saying this is you have to understand to what she's saying, and now with Deasy. Deasy has a phony PhD.
We know that.
Okay? Because of me.
I don't understand.
But just listen to more. A week after he quits, he's hired by Gates, right after they stopped small schools after 10 years and $1 billion, remember? And instantly shifted to going down on teachers, not administrators. What are the ethics of Gates to hire a guy who just quit in disgrace because he's phony? This is only to understand what she's going to tell you later about the game and the billionaires being in there, that this is a phony group that has no business running the state's business. It's a private organization.
Part of it is
It's just so you understand the scam more. That's all.
I don't know because...
Go, Ted.
I was going to say, the food is ready, and I missed a lot of stuff in going.
Well,
you can watch it.
There's so much to go over that we'll be going over and going over. Grab food because
it'll be online tomorrow morning.
As I said, this is a working lunch. So go grab food. I'm going to continue talking. Go up one at a time so it's not so noisy. Because I need to continue training you.
Okay, let me get the camera over there.
This piece again.
Put it right back on the table.
Major change that California has proposed.
We have baked chickens and fried chicken.
Okay.
Greens, macaroni, cheese, and candy yams.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jen.
In addition,
Okay, I want to pause there because I want you to understand something about your system because I'm an outsider. It's very good at propaganda. So every time I look at a black boy with a pencil in his hand, looking smart, that's not what they want. So your propaganda machine is very, very good in America. So we have to keep remembering when they keep pointing to our children, they're not talking about our children.
No, they're not.
Okay? They're talking about the child that's behind the little black boy. Alright? But we have to start educating our children on this propaganda machine that is very powerful in its communication. We've got a communication expert here who will tell you this kind of advertising sends a message. So LCFF is being purported to the community. It's for your children, look.
You can't discriminate because they sure they miss
That's
you.
right. It's all about yours. Yes, Ross.
This is what I wanted to say. When I went to the LCFF meeting, and it sounded like Marcia to me, I asked them, I said, well, what about all the black kids that you label IEP? Can we get some extra help for them that are walking the hallway? Can we figure out? Oh, no, we have everything set up for special ed and blah, blah.
Right.
I said, well, what does that have to do with the fact that you're still allowing some kids to just go every day and sit in a chair and not say anything? I said, did you just see that kid that just shot up everybody in Santa Barbara?
Right.
You're allowing some students, the last 2 years I have brought, and told you, it's my last time telling you this, that need to be in a social environment or be sat down and talked to, not to sit in the same chair for 2.5 years ago. They have tunnel vision. Right. Straight to the main office, sit in a chair, he's by himself.
But that's
Everybody knows that for the last 2 years. I said, well, he said, well, you don't have the right to say it. I said, you don't have the right not to give him what he needs.
Right. But we need more Roslyn to the school. That's one black parent.
Yeah.
Where are the other black parents in her school saying the same thing, Sharon?
His parents have said that because he's a black, she said that there's a voodoo on him and they expect that of him, that there's a sickness on him. You know, so I'm letting you know that we do that.
Can we get our own voodoo doll and stick anti-pins in it?
Sharon.
That's what I was told by the special ed teacher. I said, it still does not
Oh, my God.
All right, so
stimulation.
Exactly.
It's not getting anything out of a chair.
Go to the Fed. LCFF doesn't cover physical ed.
Yeah, she said she was going to pass this now.
Oh, I forgot. Don't worry about it. Just walk. Just walk. Don't bend over. Don't bend over.
The language of civil rights, that education is a civil right.
Yeah.
That has been co-opted by these same billionaires.
That's right.
That has
Very
been
well
co-opted.
said.
That's what Daisy is saying.
Yes.
It's the civil
I
rights.
know,
It's
he's
that like that.
now apparently a black parent said to me the other day, oh, I think Dr. Daisy's amazing. He's the first superintendent who's actually fought for the rights of black children. And I'm standing there looking at this black woman who doesn't even know this man is suing me because I sued the district for the rights of black children. Because if he believed in that, would he not be suing me? So, you know, this is the crazy part of now we've got people in our own community who are convinced that this man is like Joan of Arc to them. You know, he is the new Martin Luther King. He is fighting for the rights of our children, and he don't give one cock-a-hoot.
You don't even like that.
He don't even like black people, period.
That's right. He doesn't like the money that comes from it.
That's right.
Money.
Big Heil Master told him what to say and he does.
Great. So now you've got the point. Even though I'm showing you this because you need to know this is the people who are the experts in California right now on telling you the story. Jordan's giving you the history. Walter's giving you the history. I'm giving you a history. So just because people stand in front of you and say they're your experts, you don't mean they're experts in telling you the whole story. And I'm sorry, but African Americans and Latinos should know that better than anybody else. Just go in a classroom and and tell me is your history on the walls anywhere, okay? Who's telling your history? So we have to learn this information and be able to translate it to our communities from our perspective, so they really understand. So LCFF is replacing the money that we had because they felt with No Child Left Behind, there was too much control federally and from the states in how the money could be spent. Local control gives them local control. So if you're being locally controlled, no one's going to be looking at you, at every eye, at every dollar, at every dime, because you're now locally controlled. And you know what's even scarier? I'm going to give you a piece of information that says there are 9 school districts, in fact one dropped out because they were so exposed, 8 school districts that are like a mini federal government, and LAUSD is one of those school districts. So you can't complain anymore, there's no one you can go to for answers. If you want investigations, you have to create human rights investigation and civil rights. We have to go to the federal government, organised in hundreds of thousands to be able to get them to investigate LAUSD right now. Sharon.
And I want to add to exactly what Yolande is saying, that our president and Arnie Duncan are at the seat of part of the problem.
That's correct.
There is a whole story of Arnie Duncan's policies of TIP grant, the raising the top grant, and they've done more damage than No Child Left Behind ever could.
They really have, because we still have a high interest of kids that are not graduating. We still have a higher thing of dropouts.
You have to look at where they come from, the Chicago Fascist School of Finance, and that's where they've been the whole time.
These are the brains. Whatever happens in Chicago, that's the model for the country.
That's right.
It's a model for the country. Renaissance 2000 was how they introduced the charter schools. And if you also look at the high homicide rate of the black youth, it is the study has shown the direct connection of the proliferation of charter schools, because there is no one that is really connected to those students. There's no one who is really, really knowing what's going on in the communities. If you have a school on every other corner, there's no connector. And public schools are the stabilizers in your community. And what they have done is and if you see now, it's on almost every other corner, is a charter school. So just get ready for, excuse me, I really hate to say it, but more crime. No, the more
understand this. When you go in these CBOs that are funded by these same people that fund Daisy, you've got to remember when they're telling you, oh, local control is so much better for our children, it's not actually better. And people look at me when I'm in a room like I've lost my head and I must be needed to go into a mental institution, because I keep saying local control funding formula is not better for black children, okay? Because there is no one monitoring local control funding formula, and the only people who can monitor it is us, the community, and we ain't organised. So how can we be monitoring something when there's 20 of us in the room taking on an institution like the second largest school district in the country? So we've got to start getting our people to understand this isn't better for us. This really isn't. It was better when we were getting categorical money and they spent X amount, and every year the state would come and monitor it, and if they didn't do what they're supposed to do, the feds would come in and lay down some serious laws. Now believe me, it's like Monopoly. You go around the board and who puts on the biggest amount of money is in charge. That's what local control funding formula is. So I need us to stop our community saying, this is so much better at school side. Oh, we're going to have so much say. You're going to have no say. Alright? You ain't going to have no say. There is nothing in the law that says parents have a role in the governance. There is nothing in the law that says teachers have a role in the governance. What it says is the superintendent of a school district has the power to determine the priorities for his school district. So even the board don't even have the power. Okay? So that's where you have to.
They lied to us.
Yeah. Well, we've fallen for it because it sounded good, didn't it? If it's local and the dollar's going to follow the child, this is the best thing. I've heard people say,
And you parents will tell them what to do.
Yeah? Well, they live in here in the 70s and 80s. That was the best time in California. This is not the time in California. Right? So let's go to the second slide.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, with all of this that you're talking about?
Yes.
It's all local funding?
Yes.
But everything is handled from the top five?
That's right.
Top down. So that would be our state superintendent.
That's correct.
So we have a bunch of laws that, you know, the state superintendent has to guide all of the districts in California.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
When did that
Under LCFF, this raise for superintendent of education is the biggest joke in the world because he has no power when you read the legislation. A certain group of people have to tell him to do certain specific things, and only that. He does nothing more. Other than that, he has a big drink and his feet up on a table, and that's it.
Let me just add something. The State Department of California Department of Education in the last 4 years has contracted the size. And the reason why they've contracted the size is because they're not going to have a monitoring and accountability role anymore. That's going to be given to local control. That's why I keep saying the words over and over again. Local is going to mean local. And it ain't going to mean California. It's going to mean LAUSD, Pasadena, San Diego. And some parents are beginning to get this because guess what? They brought them a plan and said, sign this. And they said, well, hold on a minute. I thought we were supposed to be involved. Well, we are involving you. We're bringing you the plan. That's involvement.
Exactly what they do.
Okay?
So there's no accountability for real then?
No.
The state did have rules for everything.
That's right. Not anymore. And the federal government, I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you all an email next week. The federal government wrote to me and said, when I asked, and Walter and I went to the federal government and said, why is there going to be no one holding them accountable? The woman who heads up Title I and parental involvement in the federal government, who's also African American, said to me in black and white in an email that she then copied to everybody. So my name went all over the state of California and to every school district. Yolanda, we, the federal government, have no say under local control funding formula. That's the government of the United States of America sending me that email, okay? So if you get it now, you're all clear.
And all the feds do is an evaluator.
That's it. And they're not even evaluating this.
Okay, no.
But it's state only. The LCFF
is state only.
State only.
Yeah.
Only California.
Go on.
And another thing is that we have to understand who's running for state superintendent. The state superintendent is Torlakson, but also his counterpart, the one who's running, he's a charter man.
Marshall Talk.
He's a charter man. So, I mean, isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
The charter movement is going to sit at the state level?
Does they already do?
Right, I know, but this really...
Yes, I give them credit though, Marion.
If he gets elected, I mean, that'll be right.
You know what? I have to say
And he's a Democrat with Pete Wilson's support.
I'm going to say something. You've got to give these people credit, these people with money.
Yeah.
Okay? They really think this shit through. Children. They really think they're so through. Alright? So they've created silos of non-profits. Parent Revolution is $28 million in credit for Bill Gates and Walmart and, $28 million. Can you imagine?